Hi, I'm Juliet Levy. I am the instructor for History 75E, an online introduction to Latin American history. The class covers 500 years of a very large continent, so it'll necessarily just be a teaser that will hopefully lead you to take more classes in Latin American history. In this class, we're going to look up close at the clash of culture that creates Latin America and the successive wars and revolutions and histories that make up this fascinating continent's history. Join me, let's take a closer look. The class is structured around a variety of topics, including the indigenous people of Latin America, and that includes the indigenous people of what is now Mexico and the indigenous people of what is now Brazil. We will really focus on what happens on the continent when indigenous people and European people connect, and that contact is not necessarily peaceful. Quite the opposite. But it does lead to what we now understand as Latin America. And so we'll observe various ways in which this contact happens in the colonial period, but also what happens at the end of the colonial period. So we will observe and we will study the independence wars, the Mexican Revolution, photographs of which I'm showing you here, but also what happens after the Mexican Revolution and these early 20th century revolutions. What follows are even more famous revolutions in which the clash of worldviews really becomes apparent. And this then also leads to widespread popular student demonstrations, very much like you see them everywhere else in the world in the 1960s, with continued confrontations between the left and the right, east and west, the United States and Latin America. We won't study this only from the perspective of governments, and here is an example of the type of sources we will look at. We will also work with graphic novels, and all the images you've seen previously contribute to one of the aspects that I really want to emphasize in Latin American history, which is that photographs, paintings, images, culture, literature are all part of that story. And here, this image that I'm showing you here is proof that the history of Latin America really isn't just the history of wars and blood and gore. There are some really fantastic events and stories and transformations that accompany this. And this is a picture of Pope Francis, who is quite the selfie generator. I don't know that he has taken any selfies himself, but he seems to be in a lot of selfies. And so we're going to consider how technology has transformed the way, not just about how we write and see Latin America, but how Latin America portrays itself. And this, of course, is where soccer comes in, a favorite subject of mine, and a really important part of what Latin American identity and Latin American history is. Now, the class is not just about topics, it's also an online class. So here is one of the ways in which we are going to meet. This is a picture still of a Google Hangout. We are going to be meeting on Google Hangout, and this online class allows you enormous flexibility in terms of time. The only set schedule is the schedule for assignments and discussions. Everything else, the modules, the videos, the readings, you will do at a pace that is convenient to you as long as it is before the deadlines. So there are great advantages to taking an online class, least of which is not the fact that we're going to meet on Google Hangouts, but that you can bring your pet with you to the Google Hangout. So pets are always welcome. Anyway, hope to see you in class.